We the youth is power.
It's just a way for youth to, be vocal leaders for their community.
Our goal is to get the youth to recognize the injustices that go on and to be a part of the change.
We are the next generation, and if we don't get our voices heard out, there's not going to be change.
Although we are youth, we have voices. We can also speak up. We can also challenge the status quo.
I decided to join We the Youth because I aspire to be a politician when I get older. And I realized that a lot of the times youth do not get a say in what's currently going on in the world. And I feel that we are very powerful and we have very strong voices that can be used to create change.
I'm interested in changing my community. I'm interested in advocating for people. And the We the Youth program seemed like the best space for me to start advocating for others.
I joined the We the Youth Council because of everything that was happening in the world around that time. The Black Lives Matter movement showed us that the power is now. It's up to us to fight. It's up to us to carry that fire, to light that mantle and keep moving.
The catalyst for the youth town halls was, frankly, the whole world watching George Floyd's death, or him take his last breath.
First, Eric Gardner, he was about to be my breaking point, and George Floyd happened, and I just broke.
It was George, it was Breonna Taylor, it was Ahmaud Arbery. It was like all of it had come together to create this urgency in us.
I saw the video. The video showed clear evidence, injustice that occurred in that situation with the two white men pursuing Ahmaud and then gunning him down. And this situation was so undignified to Ahmaud and to his communities.
I protested from summer to November, every single day.
They marched, they mobilized, they slept in City Hall Plaza in response to that.
I would come home exhausted with blisters on my feet, and I would think, you know what, I had a good day. And when I was offered the opportunity to join We the Youth, I saw that as another opportunity for me to really make change other than walking on the street and saying, I cannot breathe.
On the heels of our staff conference back in January of 2020, we had Jeffrey Canada as our keynote speaker, and he spoke about DYCD really having a youth agenda. And I was like, well, if it's a youth agenda, we need the youth to lead it. We need to hear from them, but beyond just hearing from them, they should be the ones telling us what they need, how they need it, and why they need it.
That's what We the Youth is really about in my eyes, is really giving them the fire or helping them to ignite their fire so that they can understand their place and the importance of their voice.
And I felt the urgency of the moment that we had to, as adults who claim to work with them, to come alongside them and to help harness that energy so that it wouldn't just be a moment, would be a movement. Perhaps it would lead to kind of real systems change.
Currently, we have been doing a lot of work. We've been doing a lot of youth town halls. Our mission is to reach other youth in our community so that we could get them more informed about what's currently going on in the world, and we could give them a place where they could speak up and they could be themselves and they could learn to, say how they feel about certain things.
As youth, we feel like we can't really do much because we're so young, but ignore that. Throw that mindset away.
Whether you're transgender or cisgendered, we should all have the right opportunity to be able to have access to the same things.
Communities with the most resources have the best public safety, not the ones with the most police officers.
I think it's our job as young kids to teach self-discipline to our peers, because they mostly will listen to us instead of listening to an adult.
Some of our partners include Y Votes, Crew Counts, NYC Votes, and a lot of other youth organizations that are also part of the DYCD.
We identified the MBSK, My Brothers Sisters Keeper Youth Council, which is a DYCD-led youth council, as well as ICI, Intergenerational Change Initiative, which is a part of CUNY. They had youth researchers that we had already engaged with, so it was just another lens, and it was like, oh my goodness, if we're gonna engage young people for a youth town hall, it would be great to work with the young people that have already done research around it.
These other groups, they come in and they offer their ideas, and they craft the content along with us to make it a successful town hall.
So the young people that we work with at Crew Count were involved in, one, figuring out the layout and the script of the youth town hall that they were hosting, and then two, at the town hall, they participated in speaking on why certain recommendations were important and how they directly impact them as young people living in communities that are most impacted by bad policies.
When you talk about putting the towers up there, they're supposed to do what they say they're supposed to do, but then you'll still see 4 or 5 other police cars sitting on the block, the same tower in its own. So that creates a lot of trauma for kids who are running up the block and all they're seeing is police officers. So we have violence interrupters and a place like a center where people can get help and get through that trauma.
A lot of things goes into the crafting of the youth town halls. First, we have to create a youth agenda.
The New York City Youth Agenda was really allowing young people the space to create recommendations for things that matter to them most, and really making sure that the politicians, the powers that be, the government, the city agencies, elected officials are aware of what's impacting them and how they think that they should solve those problems.
We have different groups. They are the content creators and data analysts, and the moderators and the hosts, and those work hand in hand. The content creator and data analysts come together, analyzing a group data that has been gathered from a variety of sources.
What does the data say? Just under 45% of children in the US have experienced at least one ACE.
In 2019, there were 183 complaints made against school resource officers, SROs. 73% were due to the use of force.
This is a clear sign that racism and race directly impacts the employment rate towards everyone.
We supported the agenda by researching a lot of data, different kinds of data points around emerging issues.
So some of that were like schooling and economics and just police brutality, because those are things that, affect us.
And so we did a lot of data gathering and looking at different reports publicly available. Thankfully, because we're in New York City, there's a lot of rich data.
We conducted focus groups over the course of last summer with 52 other young people. We collected data from 416 young people through our Youth Ask Youth census. We conducted another series of focus groups where we engaged over 65 people over the course of the spring.
And we kind of also had a lot of discussion questions on how do you feel about that data? Does this resonate with you? What doesn't resonate with you? What are things that you want to see more about? So we've really tried to then go and solicit other information that interested them or piqued their interest or resonated with them the most.
So they had the big task of really making sense and make meaning of all this data, and then use that information to come up with recommendations, come up with, how they think the city should move forward based on this data and their own experiences.
The flash surveys were uploaded to amplifyapp.org, which is a platform that was created by youth for youth in order to have young people ages 14 to 24 in New York City be able to weigh in on important issues that affect them, and also win prizes for giving us valid input.
We asked, out of all the things we discussed in the town hall today, what is your top priority that you'd want to see in the next mayoral administration?
Intergenerational Change Initiative also was involved in conducting roundtables, where we also got input from other young people in New York City, which was another way. Instead of using the flash surveys, we would invite people and they would come based on their interests, whether it was education equity, whether it was economics. So we had different topics, and youth were able to see what we already had and also give us input on what they wanted to see, what was missing. And those roundtables also we used to inform our recommendations.
But by having the research that came out of the youth agenda, along with like tangible items to be, or tangible actionable items to be implemented, you have a way to measure, if when a candidate says the youth are our most precious resources and, they're our future, you have a way to measure if they truly believe in that, right? Did the dollars match what you're saying? Did your political appointments match what you're saying? Did the development of programming match what you said?
It's very easy for candidates to make promises. What you have to look for is whether they walk that talk when they get in office. And, I remember saying to them, a budget is a reflection of an administration's priorities. So don't just look at what they say to you, look at what the budget is that they put out their first year in office to see if they are walking that talk.
And through these data, we look at them critically and we come up with questions we feel pertain to the data, and we feel questions that need to be answered.
The youth were asking questions that parents who have kids in public schools are not even talking about.
According to Education Trust, New York State is ranked 48th in the nation for education and equity. Ronaldo, what recommendation do you have for New York City schools to improve?
Do you think standardized tests are accessible and equitable to all students in NYC?
NYC public middle and high schools are considered to be segregated. Do you think that the admission process leads to that?
Parents don't know that New York State has the most segregated schools. And to hear a youth mention that and say, hey, we have segregated schools, I'm like, go ahead, youth, you got it, right? Having those conversations where we're talking about gifted and talented and specialized testing, that's racist, right? Those tests are implemented in racist theories, right? And the youth are getting that.
Witnessing the disparity between my school and just the school that was literally right next door to us and the schools in our neighborhood. We're a majority Asian and white school. And you could tell that we were the school that didn't have metal detectors. But if you went down the block, those schools have metal detectors. Those schools, you could definitely feel, the school to prison pipeline taking full effect.
In 2018 to 2019 school year, the NYCLU found that Black and Latinx students accounted for 90% of school arrests.
We come up with a name that we think would be a good fit for the issue that we are discussing and we think would resonate with the youth.
The name is one of the most impactful part of the town. Instead of just putting gender justice, we came up with dismantling social hierarchy. So we wanted something that would bring people in. And after organizing the name, we begin to look for roles. So who wants to be a moderator? Who wants to host? Who wants to present the data?
Hi, everyone. My name is Chelsea, and I am one of your hosts. Welcome to the We the Youth, You the People Town Hall series.
My name is Iris, and I'll be one of your hosts today. The topic for our discussion will be community safety.
My name is Kawan, and I will be one of your hosts today. Today's topic is economic equality. We will discuss how today's youth can secure their bag.
I moderate when I have to. I host when I have to. I help others prepare to host.
I joined my very first one as an expert. Then I went on to host, so I would actually be asking the questions as well. We have a script every meeting, like before the town hall or 2 meetings before the town hall. We would start creating a script of how we want to say things and how we want things to go. Because we want it to be perfect. We have community watching us, and this is gonna, of course, affect how the community sees DYCD.
First of all, it was done so well. how Shahida's team was able to like put you in a room, then you discuss, and then you have 15 minutes, and then you go here. I was so impressed with the technology.
It was a new technology for us old folks like myself. I wasn't familiar with that, but they were very competent and they were very committed to making sure that this was a success. They gave me an opportunity to really hear what was going on and learn a little bit about what they were doing, which gave me a little context for my conversation with them.
The experts that we mainly used were people that were already sort of inclined and sort of had more knowledge with the topic that we were researching at hand.
Not all of us know everything. And it's always good to have people on our team who do know that thing, that topic, or that subject that can help us with it.
But we spoke about education. We had Principal Muhammad, that was a principal of a school in New York. And he was also talking about how much education could do to helping young people and how we could promote topics of systemic racism in classrooms and just mental health.
I think that after school educational programs, supplementary educational services should be mandated for all schools. If I show you, or I tell you what a principal's priorities are, you can see it by the way in which they allocate the funds in their Galaxy system.
An expert that stood out to me was Chief Holmes of the New York Police Department. It was inspiring to learn that a Black woman was in such a high position in the NYPD. Her views on the topic were very inspiring because she spoke about policing and police brutality with honesty.
I never call it defunding. I say shifting funds. The community has to be at the table first and foremost, has to have a voice in saying how it is that they want their community protected. What is public safety to them? Right? They're more intimate with their community, they're living it. So they definitely have to have a voice at the table. But also, as far as the police department's concerned, you have to listen.
I would say the Girls for Gender Equity, that one really stood out to me just because of their cause and their mission.
At Girls for Gender Equity, we do, in terms of our direct practice, we work alongside young people to advocate for the world that they want to see, right? So we're working with cis and trans girls of color and gender non-binary youth of color. So we're not offering direct reproductive health care or health services. However, what we're doing is supporting in bringing the message that these things are needed and that they should be funded.
After meeting with the experts, the day of the town hall comes and we start with the youth experts.
We started this group last summer in light of what's been happening with Black Lives Matter. And we've been fighting for equity in education, and we're based in LaGuardia High School.
Please, please, please provide more school counselors, providing more psychologists in schools, because that's what youth need. This is why we're having the conversation, so we can have more school counselors in the schools, make sure our youth is speaking up how they feel. Because like we stated before, sometimes the home is not a safe space for us. So who do we go to?
Voting isn't the only solution. There are other ways to get into your community and to also like uplift marginalized communities. I feel like definitely getting into really grassroots organizations, that youth-led organizations that are taking place in your community.
We have to find ways to value and appreciate all the various ways that kids bring value to schools and to their communities and to their families.
It was really interesting to hear the diverse and varied voices that people are making decisions regarding our youth without having a conversation with our youth. And the only way that they can have these conversations is if youth speak up for themselves.
The purpose of working with the youth experts is for other youth to interact with youth who are successful in their spaces and to learn from them, because it's really better when you learn from people your age.
I took my passion and created a business. My business is called Royal Career. Believe in what you want to do. Totally listen. Listening is the most important part of all of this.
We also bring in a performer. We try to bring in a performer at the middle of the program.
I started rap because I knew there were stories to tell. Like when I lost my mom, felt I was living in hell. I thank God the streets never led me to jail.
Sick and tired of seeing another brother submissive to badges, another father stripped from his family, another son lost his footing on the way home because pigs want to shower in the mud.
Change your dreams, overcome the challenges, make your truth heard, do more, say more, because everyone's ears are too wide, their eyes are too narrow.
I remember the first topic that we spoke about, it was on systemic racism, and I think that was important.
And it's sad to say, but racism in general is embedded in the roots of America.
No matter what you are, or no matter where you come from, you should not be discounted for. Everyone has a right to be here, especially when people of color.
At 16 years old, I was going to Rikers Island and I was seeing what colorism looked like in execution of the criminal justice system.
Nobody was born racist. You learn to become racist. And the same way they taught you to become racist is the same way you can stop being racist.
We got haters in the comments. When you're talking about a topic that important, that impactful, that controversial, it's a good thing, you know. And when you get that backlash, you just know you're doing something good.
A town hall that resonated with me was the community safety town hall.
During the community safety, we was checking how ultimately we could better the relationship between police and community.
At the time, there were still a lot of police brutality incidents around the country were ongoing, and a lot of people had questions about the role of the New York Police Department in our communities.
Do you think that police officers use implicit bias to affect how they police youth of color?
What are your thoughts on defunding the police?
How would you define community policing, and is it effective?
The more people that take action, the more people that speak up about these issues, the less the issues can be ignored by those in power.
For mental health and LGBTQ, it's a big topic for me because I fall under both of them. I am a bisexual male, and I was under mental distress at a couple times in my life. A lot of people don't understand people when they go through mental distress. They think, oh, it's just another crazy person or another sick person that we do not want to be near with because they could be dangerous. And really, a lot of the times that is not the case.
Sometimes even taking that first step of Googling is kind of like scary. You have to actually admit to yourself that you have a problem. And nobody likes to admit that they have a problem, especially not a mental one, because we tend to make it seem like a negative thing. Like, oh, you have mental issues. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the first thing that comes to mind when people hear mental health. So I'm glad the conversation is definitely changing and the conversation is definitely taking place.
Society as a whole has kind of accepted every way of being and every type of lifestyle. And I think just over time, will get better to the point where you're not called crazy for seeking help or just trying to be normal.
So often in our society, we are told that we don't have access, we don't have resources, we don't trust therapy, this doesn't work for our community, all these things that, yeah, they may be true to some degree, but then there's the other side of the coin, that nothing that we need for ourselves is without ourselves. Everything that we need is within.
And I think it's also having young people at the table to help shape the policies that are governing the implementation of those services.
Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act.
Mental health is about mood. And so I've coined the term mental hygiene. And the reason I like mental hygiene, and for me, it's a way more accurate depiction of what mental health needs to be, is because when you hear hygiene, you understand that that's a continuum, that's an action word, where health is not, it's the state of. And so when we think of mental hygiene, we can understand through context, oh, okay, this is something that I need to continuously do. Where mental health, unfortunately, it doesn't happen until it's too late.
The goal of our town hall from We the Youth is just to Spread awareness, normalize conversations, promote ideas, spread discussions, have important controversial conversations.
Ultimately, what we wanted to do was let them know that we have resources out there to help them, and that it's always best that you at least have someone you trust and you talk to them about these things.
These were ways how we were able to get people informed about stuff like this. And we were able to use the town halls to try to come up with, solutions to these problems.
Young people have to be at the forefront of it, and they have to see other young people representing in the front, right? To have a seat at the table with no young people when policies and programs and budgets are being created, but not asking the right young people to be at that table, that's where we fall apart, and that's when services and resources aren't available to young people.
This is a form of therapy to me, those kind of conversations that we've had, and I think it just helps everyone out.
The town halls are crucial in carrying out the work of not only having people's voices be heard, but also letting the candidates know that there is political power here, and they will be held accountable once they get into office.
One of the projects we are working on is the Youth Mayor in Town Hall. So we partnered with different organizations that prioritize the needs of youth.
The voting is important. When the youth presents an agenda, we give it to those local representatives, and then it grows from there. So we got to pay attention to the voting and who we actually put in office from the local sectors before it grows on to the higher sectors, to the state level, and then the federal legislators.
The Mayoral Youth Town Hall was a culmination of the Youth Town Hall series, which began back in August of last year.
The general goal we want is to prioritize youth, to put our voices out there. And so we're not waiting for the mayor to come up with a plan to better ourselves. We already have a plan.
We actually engaged with 2 of the mayoral hopefuls, and the young people themselves presented the long-awaited youth agenda.
We have a dream!
We couldn't be more excited that this event is about the youth of New York and the amazing opportunities that you have for civic engagement and participation all around our most important and cherished right of voting.
I just went quickly through your agenda, and it's really excellent, I must say. And I learned a lot of things.
When I see you, I see promise. And promise means that there's potential to grow and to thrive, not just to survive, and to do well and succeed against all odds.
It behooves us to actually make a shift to the youth at a time when we're having a technological revolution.
It's an opportunity for my voice and our voices to be taken seriously and for them to be heard.
Love isn't what society tells us. Love doesn't tell you who to be. Love is about what you perceive and what I believe.
The youth of New York City requires our next mayor to get real about mental health, community safety, youth employment, education, and all the issues that affect youth the most.
Young people are looking for outlets to share their frustration and demand change. That's when DYCD came up with the Youth Town Hall series to help provide us with a platform to be seen and be heard. I want us to know that this youth agenda needs to be endorsed by everyone, from the young people to our mayoral candidates.
Let's be sure to share the youth agenda and use hashtag vote your voice, hashtag New York City Youth Agenda. And please, 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 the Youth Acts Youth Census is still out all the way to September. So please win $25 gift card. Your voice matters. You get to have a say in something like this just by taking the survey, which is where the youth agenda came from.
You've heard the issues, you heard the data, and we made our recommendations. If you truly stand with us young people and see our vision of an equitable city where youth voice is not only honored but incorporated in policies, programming, and city funding, please endorse the New York City Youth Agenda.
To see them come to life in our hybrid town hall, it was just so invigorating, and I felt so proud. I mean, if I was everyone's mama in that moment, I definitely was, because it's something to say when you give young people the opportunity to be heard.
They were able to present their priorities, their recommendations, the issues as they saw it fit. They had an opportunity to really give testimony to why those priorities meant so much to them, how it impacted their lives. They actually brought forth new perspectives, things that we would have never considered as a city agency, things that many adults don't consider, things that some of the candidates that may be running for mayor are unaware of.
So we hope on a community level that it really changes the problems we feel as youth we need solutions to. We really hope that the leader comes and helps us change this.
I envision them developing a platform that we would help them get in front of candidates. And they've gone actually beyond that. They're the ones that wanted to bring the platform and have candidates in person respond to that. They're the ones that are, using social media and those skills to call out candidates who are not responding to them. They are the ones who are already thinking about how do we hold whoever becomes mayor accountable.
I want adults and local leaders to start taking us more seriously. Our mayors, our governors, even our city council officials.
They have stepped into lanes that I don't think they even thought that they would claim. They have became greater than themselves in the past few months without even knowing it. Parents have called me and said, "What are you all doing to my son, because he cannot stop talking about social justice?" So, well, it was always there. He just needed somebody to listen.
I think it is very significant that this initiative is led by 3 powerful women of color. Denise Williams, who is my boss, who gave us the inspiration to bring forth this process and just the ability to put forth a youth agenda on behalf of New York City youth, led and driven by young people, working alongside Shahida, who would probably never say that it would have never happened without her guidance. She worked tirelessly, effortlessly with the young people. She poured her heart and soul into this initiative, and because of her, it was a success. The young people are forever changed, and this process changed all of our lives.
We the youth has just showed me that I have options. I could do whatever I want. I could write a speech for a politician, or I might as well be that politician. I could write a speech for myself. I could go into law, I could lead protests. I could be part of protests. I could, be a facilitator for moderators or town halls going forward. And I could bring people together. I could be on the team for a president or for like a mayor or a governor.
Being a part of the We the Youth agenda has changed me a lot. I grew up in a very Republican household, actually. And then just coming together with youth and seeing how they feel, it sort of like changed my perspective and my way of thinking on certain things.
It's just improved my love for helping out. I'm planning on becoming a state EMT and working with either a different ambulance or private ambulance organization, or with the FDNY or Presbyterian, New York Presbyterian.
Participating has opened my eyes to a lot of injustices and a lot of things that need to be remedied within our city and within the country.
Being in this program has really motivated my future career goals. What I want to do now is I want to get my JD, but while getting my JD, I also want to work towards my master's in social work with a focus on youth. and a focus on youth problems. So when I do get my JD and when I do get my social work, I want to combine them together, working for a nonprofit organization or working for civil rights or nonprofit organizations that are centering youth, especially marginalized youth. I want to work with them to prioritize what we need, prioritize our issues, and create solutions and create policies that could allow us to live a better life.
They're leaving with a set of skills that they might not have had before, that they now know a way in which to engage government, that they have a better understanding of how policies are made. They have a better understanding of what the process is to bring change. And knowing that there are multiple ways in which to do so. You can be in front of the camera, behind the camera, leading a march, leading a protest, writing a speech, engaging on social media. I want those young people to know that there is a way for everyone to show up and be heard in their very own way, and having a true understanding of what collective impact means.
I feel that every youth's voice is important, and I believe that every youth's voice should be shared with the world. And I know some people may be shy and they may not be, outspoken, but they could use what they're passionate about to, help, voice their opinions. If you're passionate about writing, you could write an article or you could write a poem.
We need your voice to address those in power, to galvanize change in our communities, to galvanize change in our country.
Every voice, especially youth, is important. If you do not want to speak, I'm not going to make you speak. But I want you to know that you have an option and that you will always feel safe because we'll be there to back you up.
There's a lot of youth out there creating change, but not enough are giving credit. So everyday regular people, everyday regular youth, no matter what schools you attend, you are welcome with the youth program. So you're able to advocate for yourself.
I want to encourage all youth to come out and, voice their opinions and be active members of their community, because we are going to be the future generations. And it's important for all of us to be heard, despite our different opinions, despite, if some may disagree, your voice still counts and your voice is still just as important.
Be aware, speak, don't just be quiet. These topics are important. A lot of people are getting affected by them. Just because you're not getting affected doesn't mean you should be complacent.
Anything helps. Either watching and supporting from a distance at home, watching online, physically being here at the events with us and helping us as a moderator, as an expert, as a host, or whatever. It's very important. Or you could even just share it to your friends. Let them know who we are, how we do things. We need you to be a part of a solution that could help change the world.